Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today to hear about UK Biobank's Imaging Enhancement Project. My name's Steve Garrett. I'm the Imaging Programme Manager at UK Biobank, and I'll be acting as chair for today's event. Most of you will not have taken part in the imaging study yet, but we're very much hoping that you'll want to after today's talk. This is an incredibly ambitious study. We want to image 100,000 of the 500,000 participants we recruited between 2006 and 2010. There is nothing quite like it in the world. Similar medical imaging studies have fewer than 10,000 participants, so we really are on a different scale. We began in 2014 in Stockport, and so far over 85,000 participants have taken part, but we still need to get to that 100,000 mark, and that is where you come in. Our centre in Bristol opened in 2020, just in time for the COVID outbreak. For a couple of years, we actually lent the site to the NHS, but in 2022, we reverted back to our imaging participants. We've now seen over 9,000 participants in Bristol alone, and we're about halfway to our target there. Unlike the baseline visit, where you first joined UK Biobank, there are only 4 sites across the country performing the imaging study. There is one in Newcastle, one in Reading, one in Stockport, and this one in Bristol. Our Bristol site covers the whole of South West and South Wales. Its location is handy for the mainline trains and the motorways, and we'll provide a little bit more information on the location shortly. Once we've finished this initial phase of imaging in the middle of next year, we'll then be embarking on an even more ambitious study to repeat image 60% of those 100,000. So, we have an agenda today that we very much hope you will find interesting. First of all, Sean from our Participant Resource Centre will talk a little bit about the process of making an appointment. Then, Tony Didcutt, our Operations Manager in Bristol, will talk about what you can expect during the assessment. Nicola will talk a little bit about what comes after the assessment has finished. And finally, we have Professor Tobias, who's going to give us an example of how imaging data is being used in research already. At the end of the session, there'll be some time for questions and answers from the whole panel. So just to provide a little bit of housekeeping, we've about an hour with you today and we'll try our very best to stick to timings. Any questions during any of the sessions, please type them into the chat box that should be available, and we'll answer as many of those as possible at the end. If you're unable to stay for the whole presentation, or if you miss anything, then you'll be able to watch the presentations again via our website. And this on-demand content will also have captions available.
Thank you very much, Steve. And yes, just to introduce myself, my name is Sean Dunn. I'm the Deputy Manager for our Participant Resource Centre. Now, some of you may have spoken to us over the years, but for those of you who haven't, we are the team who are on hand to answer any questions that you may have about your participation in UK Biobank. And specifically today, I'm here to talk to you about how we will assist you to take part in the imaging study that Steve has just referenced by helping you book your appointment and informing you about how you can expect the process to look before you actually come to your assessment. Now, just before I go on to the booking side of things, as Steve's mentioned, you may well have had an invitation to take part in the imaging study already, but don't worry, if you don't have that to hand, you can find the necessary information that you need, as well as today's event, on our website, and there is a link there on the slide, and that will be made available to you after the event as well. Now, that page on the website does give an excellent overview of what will happen during your appointment. It includes videos on what the scanners look like and how to get to the centre itself. And as I said, that will be made available afterwards. But to actually book your appointment, you will need to speak to our team at the Participant Resource Centre. And just some housekeeping, although again, you'll have the number at the end. We are available on 08000 276 276. That's Monday to Friday from 9 until 5. Now, just moving on. Here we are. In terms of booking your appointment, we will actually be looking to give you a call after the event. And I believe that there'll be a link posted in the chat to a form where you can sign up to register to receive that call from us, specifying when it will be convenient to get in touch with you over the next few days. If for some reason you don't hear from us by sort of the middle of next week, please do give us a call. Our team will be looking forward to hearing from you, and your call will be answered by our dedicated participant advisors quickly and efficiently. Now, when we do speak to you, your advisor may ask for your participant ID number or PID, which is included on all correspondence we send out to you, and then just confirm that we have the most up-to-date contact details and email address for you. If you don't have your PID number, please don't worry. We'll ask you for some other details just to confirm your identity. Once we've done that, we'll just ask you a few basic questions just to confirm you are aware which imaging centre you've been invited to, how long the appointment lasts, and to check whether there is anyone else in your household who is a UK Biobank participant, as we are able to offer double appointments for participants attending together. The advisor will then just check that it is a convenient time to run through our medical pre-screening questionnaire with you over the telephone, and that is conducted just to ensure that you are safe and suitable to complete all the scans and measurements required on the day of your visit. And that just maximizes your involvement on the day and gives us that data that we require for the research. Now, I mentioned that pre-screening questionnaire. This is a series of questions about your health and medical history. It takes around about 5 to 10 minutes to complete per participant. That does depend on the amount of surgeries you've had and their complexity. Although the staff at the Participant Resource Centre are not medically trained, they do have an excellent knowledge of our eligibility criteria, and they will make that process of completing the questionnaire as quick and as painless as possible for you. Once they have gone through the questions that they require of you, there are a few potential outcomes. Number one is the one where we hope that we'll be able to reach with you, which is to deem that you are eligible to book an appointment. And if so, the advisor would then move on to book that with you. Sometimes we do have to inform participants that we're not actually able to scan them based on the current guidelines that we have. That's usually either because we can't be certain that it is safe to scan you, or we can't rule out the possibility of there being an implant of some kind used in one of the surgeries that you've had, which would show up as an artifact on one of our scans and affect the image quality. Please note that outcome does happen far less frequently than it did at the outset of the study, as we can now scan participants with various types of implants that we could not previously. And if there's any doubt about your eligibility, we do encourage participants to contact us, even if they believe they may not be ineligible, as we quite often can actually get you scanned. The third outcome really is what we deem a referral, which is where we might sometimes have to ask you for some more detailed information to confirm whether you are eligible to be scanned. Once that process is complete, our advisors would then refer that on to our radiography team to consider your eligibility. Or once they come back to us, we'd give you a call just to confirm your eligibility status. Now, when we are going through this pre-screening questionnaire, it is helpful if you have had to think about your medical history before you are contacted. The more certain you are of the surgeries that you've had and when you've had them, the quicker we can go through that pre-screening questionnaire with you and hopefully move on to booking an appointment with you. So in terms of booking an appointment, the Bristol Imaging Centre is open 7 days a week. And we do have appointment times ranging from 8 a.m. in the morning through to 3:20 in the afternoon. And it is a 4 to 5 hour assessment. And we currently have appointments available through till the middle of September. However, we do also aim to release new appointments every week. When we do go through your appointments, you may well be offered an appointment at quite short notice, perhaps the very next day or a couple of days' time. That is just to ensure that our centres are as full as possible on the day, and it makes maximum use of our funding. Please don't feel pressured that if you're asked to attend the next day that you have to attend that day at all. We do want to make sure the appointment is convenient for you. So our advisors will consult with you to ensure that they do get an appointment time and date that does work for you. If for some reason we're unable to find a suitable time and date for you on that initial call, we will arrange to give you a call back once we've released more dates into the calendar in line with your preferred time and date. Hopefully, once we've confirmed that time and date for you, we'll then just ask if there are any kinds of mobility, physical or sensory needs, or any severe allergies, or any other forms of impairments which might make it difficult for you to perform the scans or measurements on the day. We'll also just check to ask if you have any dietary requirements that we need to cater for, as we do offer some simple sandwiches and fruit and biscuits. Although sometimes participants do ask for champagne on arrival, we can't stretch our funding to that, unfortunately. Lastly, we will just check to see how you are planning on travelling to the centre to see if we can advise on any questions you may have about the journey. If you do have any questions about how to find the centre, the page I mentioned earlier does have a video on where you can see the journey to the centre from the surrounding area, and our team can send you that link as well on that booking call. If something does go wrong on the day and you're not able to find the centre, please do give us a call. We'll pass you on to Tanya's team, who are very adept at guiding any lost participants to the centre on the day of the appointment. Once your appointment has then been booked in, the advisor will just run through some final confirmation details with you. So your advisor will inform you that you receive all the confirmation details in the post, although we can email them out to you as well. And they'll just highlight a few areas of that correspondence to pay particular attention to. They'll then just repeat that appointment booking time and date just to confirm that they have got that correct with you, and they'll just thank you then for taking part. Once you have received that confirmation pack then in the post, we do strongly encourage you to give it a good read and give us a call if you have got any questions afterwards. It's especially important to give us a ring if you do remember anything that you didn't mention when going through that medical pre-screening questionnaire, just as you may not be deemed eligible on the day of the assessment if you suddenly remember something that you didn't cover in that questionnaire, and obviously it contravenes our guidelines. It's also, and that's because, that the centre staff will go through that medical pre-screening questionnaire with you again on the day. It's also important in the run-up to the appointment, if you do, just to let us know if you are feeling unwell or are infectious, so that we can reschedule your appointment for when you're feeling better. Lastly, ahead of the day, you will receive an email and a text reminder just to confirm the date and time of your appointment. And our team will also attempt to give you what we term a welcome call around 7 days before you're due to attend. That's just to make sure you are still able to make it and to run through any kinds of questions that you may have. And that's really all from me. So the Participant Resource Centre, as I mentioned, it's open from Monday to Friday and from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. We look forward to speaking to you.
Thank you, Steve. So yes, hi everybody. I'm Tonya Didcott, Imaging Operations Manager for Bristol. I started with Biobank in 2019 and was taken on to help set up the Bristol site from scratch. I'm here just to give you a brief insight into what the imaging visit would involve, and we're hoping that some of you will consider joining us in the near future. So what we are very aware of is that the challenge is finding the site. So we are in Patchway, which is north of Bristol, quite close to Cribbs Causeway and not far from the Almondsbury interchange. So as Steve said earlier, we're quite well served by the local motorways. We are located within the Horizon 38 Business Park in Patchway, so just off the A38. So the A38 North, or Gloucester Road North, runs up, that's the sort of pink road running straight upwards on the map ahead of you. We recommend using Google Maps or even What 3 Words to find us. People's sat-navs generally take you either to the back of the building or generically to our business park, because it is a very new business park and a lot of sat-navs actually don't specify where we actually fall on the estate. So within our estate, we're accessed by the B4057 Gypsy Patch Lane, which is, if you're coming off the A38, it's the road signpost T8. And then if you take either of the first two turnings on the right-hand side, it will bring you into our business park. And the two sort of roads, both Taurus Road and Titan Road, actually lead into Bolingbroke Way, which you need to get into to access the site. And as Sean said, if people get to this area, then we're quite happy to talk people in if they do get stuck. But the business park is actually two of the big buildings on the business park is the Village Hotel, which is a really good landmark for us, and also Car Shop. So if you can find either the Village Hotel or Car Shop, you know you're actually basically right on the edge of our business park, and so not very far away at all. And this actually, once you get into Bolingbroke Way, this is the site you will get that leads into our estate. So as I say, it is a business park. Lots of people get put off thinking, oh, this is an industrial estate, we can't be in the right place. But actually, if you drive into here, there's a yellow lorry right across on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, the yellow lorry won't be there when you attend, I'm sure. But we're actually situated right past there on the right-hand side in the corner here. As you enter this little business park area, there are now two nice blue Biobank signs on each corner with an arrow pointing you in. And you will see Q Electrical on the right-hand side and Williams, which is a great big W sign, on the left, so indicates you're in the right place. But as I say, if you get lost at all, we're quite happy to talk you in. And once you get past all the stress of coming in, you'll be welcomed by one of our health research assistants, and this is Georgina sitting at the desk there. What they'll do is welcome you, talk through just to make sure we've got your up-to-date information on the computer in front of you, and they will tell you what your visit involves and the fact of your visit does take about 4 to 5 hours on site that day. You'll then be asked to complete a consent form, which is done on the touchscreen questionnaire, which you'll see just in the picture there. Quite a bit of work is on the touchscreen questionnaire, so if you have got reading glasses, ideally it helps if you can bring them, please. Once you've completed your consent form, it's likely we will start the visit with the imaging part of the journey through the site. And so you will be taken away into a little room by one of our either superintendents or senior radiographers to privately go through your medical health again, just to make sure that nothing has been missed or has changed since your phone conversation with one of Sean's team. So we just always double check just to make sure everything's completely safe. We'll then provide you with some scrubs, so glorified pyjamas to put on just for your imaging visit or imaging part of the visit. During the visit, we carry out 2 MRI scans, one of the brain and one of the heart and abdomen. So our scanners are the same as those used in a clinical setting, so both of them look very much the same as that. We've actually got wide bore scanners within Biobank, so the gap in the middle is a 70 centimetre opening, which is actually designed to make you feel much more comfortable and less claustrophobic than some of the NHS scanners. The radiographer that settles you into the scanner will actually provide you with a handheld buzzer. So if you want to speak to them, if you feel uncomfortable or you want to stop the scan at any time, you can alert us. But they will also be watching you through a glass window, so they'll know exactly what's going on and be able to watch you at all times. The brain scan takes about 30 minutes to do. And during the brain scan, we collect a mixture of images that allow the researcher to review both the brain anatomy and how it functions. The images you see here are the results from a functional test that some people perform. It shows the areas of the brain that are activated when you carry out a particular task. So you can see that in red on here. We then also carry out a heart MRI scan, which is on a different scanner, but it does look very much the same. Our heart scan takes between 20 and 25 minutes. And in preparation for the scan, we hook you up to an ECG machine so that we can monitor your heart throughout the scan. We also put some pads and coils around your chest, A, to keep you comfortable, but to enable us to take the images. and we run through some simple breathing instructions so that we can get the best images of your heart during the scan. We capture a mixture of both still and moving images, and obviously you can see from that picture that it is a moving image there. And this helps the researchers to assess the size and the shape of your heart, as well as how well the heart is functioning, and because it's a moving muscle. We then carry out an abdominal scan on the same scanner. The radiographer will make slight adjustments to the scanner and then carry on with that straight away afterwards. And that takes about 10 minutes to carry out. The images of this type actually allow the researchers valuable data on things such as organ size, muscle mass, and the distribution of body fat. So really, really interesting to us. Just in case you're not aware, MRI scanners are very, very noisy. And they make different noises depending on the type and the sequence of the scan that we're carrying out at the time. So I'm going to give you an example of the sounds. So bear with me. This is the sound of an MRI scanner, I hope. So we will actually provide you with earplugs. I don't think it played the whole thing there, but we will provide you with earplugs. So if you find it noisy, it certainly will protect your hearing. During your visit, we'll also carry out a DEXA scan. So the DEXA scan takes about 20 minutes to do. It consists of lots of small images on different parts of your body, and you do need to lie very flat and quite still for these. The staff will tell you exactly the position you need to get in so that we can get the best images. The DEXA provides us with really valuable images or information on your bone density, something that the researchers are using to look for signs of osteoporosis in the aim to reducing fractures for people. We also carry out an ultrasound scan. See if the image comes up, yeah. This takes about 5 minutes to perform, and it's of your carotid arteries in the side of your neck. And the carotid arteries provide a blood supply to the brain. For this scan, it's a very, very straightforward procedure. We use a probe and some ultrasound jelly to scan the side of your neck. And it's a very sort of non-invasive, easy procedure to carry out, but it gives us a good view of the thickness of the artery wall. And you can just about see that where the green area is on the scan. We'll also carry out an ECG at that time as well. Once we've completed that, we go back to repeat the baseline measurements that you will have had done right at the very beginning between 2006 and 2010. So we repeat your weight, height, body mass, blood pressure, pulse trace, and grip strength. We also approach participants who are over the age of 65 to see if they're happy to wear a cardiac monitor as well, which they would wear for 2 weeks and they take home with them and send it back in. We request repeats of blood and urine tests. We also do another verbal interview again, like you had done right at the beginning, to list your medical history and any medications that you're taking. We then carry out a touchscreen questionnaire, which takes about 40 to 45 minutes to do and asks you questions generally about your way of life, diet, activity, etc. And the final part of the visit is a touchscreen cognition test, which is a few games that snap pairing of cards and things, which we will ask you to do at the end. Very, very quickly, if I can get this to go on. So the visit involves the welcome and screening, brain MRI, heart and abdominal MRI, DEXA and carotid ultrasound scan, sample collection, repeat a baseline, and then a conclusion at the very end. The whole visit does take between 4.5 to 5 hours. And because it needs to be really, really slick to enable us to get everything done and as much data from 18 participants a day, we tend not to give you a break until towards the end of the study. But if people want a break or if they want to miss anything, doing anything, There's no obligation to take part in any part of the study, and you just have to let staff know. We're really grateful for everything that you do. We're really grateful even for your time today. But we hope that some of you will come and join us in the near future. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to be here with you today, and thank you for taking a few minutes of your day to spend with us this afternoon. I'm Nicola Doherty, and I'm Head of Study Administration at UK Biobank. I've actually been involved with the study for over 20 years with the actual planning of how we actually established this study. And it's the credit goes to all of you for actually being willing to take part and giving up your time to UK Biobank. We're all incredibly grateful. What I'm going to do is talk to you for just a few more minutes. I appreciate you've listened a lot already, but I'm going to take 5 minutes of your time, if that's okay, just to talk about what you might expect to happen after the imaging visit if you agree to take part. So, as Tonya nicely talked to you about the location of the Imaging Assessment Centre in Bristol, we realised that some of our participants may have to travel some distance to actually attend an imaging assessment, and we therefore are able to reimburse travel expenses to anyone who requires travel expense costs. So this might include reimbursement of mileage for private car, and we have mileage rates that we can reimburse. This might include travel by public transport, train, as you can see there, tram or bus. We reimburse at levels of standard class travel, and we also have on-site parking at all of our centres. We'll provide you with a travel expense claim at the end of your visit, and what we ask is that you actually complete your form and actually attach any receipts or tickets that you can to the form and return that to us. And what we will do then is arrange for payment to be made to you within 28 days of receiving your claim. This is usually by a bank account transfer, but if for any reason you're unable to receive it in that way, we can arrange cheque payment. We're unable to cover hotel or overnight stays, unfortunately, or taxi journeys, unless there really is a special requirement for that. And our participant contact centre team that Sean was talking to you about will certainly have those conversations with you if you need to discuss that with us. As I said, we will reimburse within probably about a month of you actually taking part in the assessment. As well as the reimbursement of travel costs, we will send you a post-visit questionnaire to find out a bit more about how you found the visit. You've just heard some lovely videos from participants about their experience of taking part in the assessment, and we're really keen to understand how you found it. It's valuable feedback for us, for the project team, for the centre staff like Tonya to receive. And so after the visit, probably a few days afterwards, you will receive an email that will include a link to a questionnaire that's administered by a SurveyMonkey. And it will give you the opportunity to actually answer a few questions for us about how the day went and what your experience was of it. It should only take 5 minutes to complete, but as I said, it's really valuable feedback for us to receive, and the whole imaging team welcome receiving it to see what improvements we can make. The last thing I'm going to mention to you is about potentially incidental findings that might come out as a consequence of you taking part in the study. So just to be clear, the imaging assessment is not a health check. It's very much a study to collect data for research purposes. So when the radiographers within Tonya's team are actually completing the scans, they are reviewing the scans for data quality. They're not actually looking to diagnose disease. It's very much for research purposes. But as a consequence of doing that review, they can spot things that are unexpected and they believe might be a serious finding. And so in order for you to take part, you need to agree that if we do spot something, can report that back to you. So just to be clear, if a radiographer did spot an incidental finding, what they would then do is refer that to a specialist radiologist to review. And if that radiologist did agree that, yes, this is something that we should report, then that would be reported back to you and also to your GP. So what we would do is within a few weeks of you attending your assessment, we would then actually write to you and your GP to let you know that this finding had been spotted, and for you then to have a further correspondence discussion with your GP about whether there needs to be further investigations around this. I should say it's very few in number of findings that are reported out. Only around 2% of anybody who takes part receive a report. So it is very low in number, but it's important to be aware that this can happen. It's part of what you would be consenting to take part in, and there is more information in the information leaflet should you have any particular questions around that. And as well as that, I would encourage you to talk to the Participant Contact Centre team if there's particular questions you have, or even later on at the end of this call, we can answer any particular questions. And I think that's all I was going to say at this point. So thank you for listening to me, and I'll hand back to Steve.
Thank you, Steve. It's great to have the opportunity to talk to you about some of the research we've been doing based on this fantastic imaging resource obtained in UK Biobank. And our research is particularly focused on the DEXA scans. We heard from Tonya that the DEXA scan produced these images at a number of different sites, particularly of I've got here, there's the hip, the spine, the knee, and then a sideways view of the spine. And so, as well as numbers that come out, like bone density measurements that we can use to diagnose osteoporosis, there are all these images that are produced. And our research is designed to try to extract information from these images that can tell us about musculoskeletal disease. Now, you might well have heard about use of DEXA scans in diagnosing osteoporosis. This is a condition where there's an increase in fragility of the bone, leading to fractures as a consequence of reduced bone density. And this, for example, underlies about 75,000 hip fractures a year in the UK. And traditionally, hip DEXA scans and spine DEXA scans are carried out if, for example, you're referred to have a DEXA scan in a hospital to look at possible osteoporosis. Well, we're also interested in osteoarthritis, which is kind of sort of a wear and tear of the joints. And when we're talking about kind of big joints, we're talking about hip and knee joints. So, for example, underlying 85,000 hip replacements a year in the UK and 100,000 knee replacements. So it's a common condition. And some of the things that we can pick up on X-rays, for example, hip, I've got here, that you can see what are called osteophytes, which are a little outgrowths of bone at the edge of the joint. And you can also see the space between here, the hip and the pelvis, where the joint space is supposed to be. That gets worn away, so the joint space gets reduced, reflecting the loss of cartilage. So as part of the Augment study, which is a project that we're leading from Bristol, funded by the Wellcome Trust, and it's bringing together a number of different institutions in the UK, where we're kind of trying to use these the DEXA images from UK Biobank to look more closely at the relationship between osteoarthritis and joint shape based on the DEXA images obtained from the imaging study. So you can understand that we're thousands and thousands of images, much larger, as we've heard, than anything that's been undertaken anywhere else, like sort of 80,000 currently. And in order to deal with those kind of numbers of images, you really have to be able to automate any kind of analysis. So we teamed up with universities of Manchester and Aberdeen, who have got the experts in image analysis. And so if you're looking at that on the left, that's the DEXA image of a hip, but then we get this software can sort of automatically detect the edges of the bone and put these dots, these around the surfaces of the bone, and then also recognize where these outgrowths of the bone are, these osteophytes that are not actually the bone, part of the main anatomically joint itself, but these outgrowths of bone, we can recognize those, and then we're color coding them and working out how big they are. And this has got to be done in an automated way to be able to deal with this huge scale of the images that were being obtained. And so we've linked this information that we've generated to other information obtained in UK Biobank to find some really interesting relationships between shape and musculoskeletal disease. So, for example, we've compared joint shape in those UK Biobank participants according to whether they do or do not undergo a hip replacement. And as you can see in green, that shows the shape of individuals in UK Biobank who subsequently have a hip replacement compared with those who do not, shown in black. And you can see I've got a couple of arrows there. The arrow at the top shows that in UK Biobank participants who subsequently undergo any replacement, the green, the top of the pelvis above the head of the hip is pushed back a bit, and that might mean that there's a condition called acetabular dysplasia, where the cup that the hip sits in might be not quite properly formed sort of early on in life, and it might be that this is a sort of predisposition to getting a hip replacement. And then what was also interesting, you can see that this is outgrowth of bone, the lower arrow in those who have a hip replacement, and it possibly suggests that people who have a hip replacement, as well as wearing out of the joint itself, the bone around it might also become a bit abnormal and start to go out a bit like, not only do you get these outgrowths of bone called osteophytes, but it seems like the stem, the femoral neck as it's called, just below the head, also start to expand as part of this abnormal bone growth process happening in osteoarthritis. So we've seen one or two other changes, as well as looking at shape. We can derive various measurements like width of the femoral neck, diameter of the femoral head, this other thing called hip axis length. We can measure these from the points that we've placed and compare those according to whether, for example, people have hip replacements. And then we can also so we've also taken this opportunity to compare shape, in this case, white UK Biobank participants as a sort of an ethnic study to people from China. We teamed up with a cohort called the SC cohort in China, and we just simply compared their hip shape. And it's known that for some reason, Chinese people often have a lower risk of hip replacement, and we were wondering whether of osteoarthritis generally of the hip, and we wondered if this could be explained by alterations in hip shape. So we basically just here comparing hip shape in UK Biobank participants to those in China, just to look at potential ethnic differences that would also contribute to ethnic differences in risk of having osteoarthritis. I've talked up until now about sort of shape changes in those with hip replacements, but looking at people with kind of earlier on, more mild osteoarthritis, what about people just with a bit of hip pain? Well, we found that we can actually, these osteophytes that we're detecting with DEXA scanners using this method we've developed, actually shows a very strong relationship with risk of having hip pain, suggesting that these osteophytes that we're able to pick up on these DEXA scans might actually be giving us a strong signal, if you like, in terms of picking up people at risk of having hip osteoarthritis. So although hip DEXA scans are traditionally used to pick up people with early osteoporosis that might need treatment to make their bones stronger, well, maybe we can use these same methods to pick up people who have who are early on in terms of risk of osteoarthritis. And as you might be aware, the great thing about DEXA scans is, although they're X-ray based, they use a very tiny dose of X-rays, which means that they can be used to kind of screen, if you like, very low risk populations. So unlike X-rays, you know, your doctor would only arrange for you to have an X-ray if they thought actually there might be something wrong with it. Actually, we can use DEXA scans to screen lots of people. And although as well as screening people for osteoporosis, well, maybe we can be screening people to see if they have osteophytes and risk of osteoarthritis. So the other thing we've done is we've related some of these shape measures to the genetic information. As you know, there's some detailed genetic information that's been obtained in UK Biobank participants, and this can be a very powerful tool for understanding genetic influences on disease, and not only as a way of finding people who might be at risk of getting genetic might be at risk of getting osteoarthritis by doing a genetic test, but also as a way of finding genetic signals in terms of, that might be useful for in terms of drug discoveries. So, for example, the light brown signals at the bottom here seem to be genetic signals that can maybe protect against osteoarthritis by increasing cartilage thickness. Then finally, just to make the point that we've also applied the same methodology looking at knee shape. and we've linked knee shape to people who are getting knee replacements and finding that, sure enough, we're getting these expected shape changes in people at risk of having who go on to get knee replacements, seeing this kind of bow-legged appearance that we're picking up on the knee DEXA scans. And in addition, we're finding that we can pick up knee osteophytes on these knee DEXA scans, and they're also likewise related to getting risk of having knee pain. So just to conclude, hip and knee DEXA scans, the aim is to get these obtained in nearly 100,000 participants in UK Biobank as part of the imaging enhancement study. As part of the Augment study, we've derived several measures of joint shape and features of osteoarthritis from these scans. Understanding the relationships between joint shape, osteoarthritis, and other influences measured in UK Biobank, like genetic factors, may help us to understand the causes of osteoarthritis and to possibly identify new potential targets for developing new treatments. And our findings also point the way to using DEXA scans to screen for osteoarthritis as well as osteoporosis. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that, John. That was really, really fascinating. So we've now some time for a short panel discussion. We've one or two questions from that have been given through the talk, and we can cover those. But if anybody has any last minute questions, especially about John's talk there, then please do type them into the chat, and we'll try our very best to cover them. Any that we don't have time to answer now, there is a get in touch button at the bottom of the screen. If you'd like to post your questions there, then our communications team will respond to those after the event. So, John, if we can start with you, please. So this is my own question, I guess, but from a researcher perspective, what does make UK Biobank so special?
Well, I'd say it's two things. It's firstly the sheer scale. I mean, having information on scans in a cohort like this number, as you said, is like at least tenfold greater than anything that's been achieved. And having such large numbers can be really important, particularly for kind of genetic studies where this is a situation where the bigger the number, it does really make a big difference in terms of your confidence in identifying genetic signals. So that large number is really, really critical. The other thing I'd say is just the sheer amount of information available. So obviously there's the DEXA scans themselves, which are obtained in this using this high quality DEXA scanner image, which gives like almost X-ray quality. So there's but as well as that, we can link the information obtained to other data obtained both as part of UK Biobank itself. So you've heard that during the clinic assessment, there's lots of information that's obtained about people, lots of questions asked, lots of other image data, lots of other factors that might be playing in genetic as well as genetic data. There's also a lot of information obtained from the blood samples. There's what's called proteomic data, measuring thousands of sort of different proteins. So lots and lots of detailed information obtained as part of the study, but also through record linkage, where you can link back to participants' health records. There's also lots of valuable information. So this, when I was looking at describe the relationships between shape and whether or not people subsequently have joint replacement, that's obtained with health linkage data going back over a number of years. And in fact, we can also look at this prospectively. So in terms of the baseline images were done quite a number of years ago, but we can relate that to if somebody has had a subsequent joint replacement, say through record linkage. So yeah, both the scale and I think the richness of the data.
Excellent. That's a great answer. Thank you, John. So kind of related, and I might pass this one to Sean. So somebody said, I've had a hip replacement. Is it worth me taking part?
Yes, it is. If it's a single hip replacement that you've had, so that is a hip replacement on one side of your body, and that same hip could be replaced several times, and as long as it's on the one side of your body, you would still be eligible to take part. Unfortunately, at present, we're not able to scan participants who've had hips replaced on both sides of their body. We haven't quite managed to crack that in terms of getting you scanned at Bristol. We may be able to in the future, but the current guidelines are that we're not able to scan double hip replacements. So if you've had the hip replaced on one side, you may very well be eligible as long as you meet the rest of the criteria. If it's on both sides, unfortunately, present, we're not able to scan you at Bristol.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks. Tonya, so we've got a participant who says, I struggle to travel by myself. Am I okay to bring a friend?
It is a long visit, so the visit takes about 4 to 5 hours. So it is a long time for your friend to wait for you. We're very close to Cribbs Causeway, so if they have ability to sort of travel just 10 minutes down the road by car, and they can get there and have a shopping stint while you're busy in the imaging centre, then that would be ideal. We've got a very, very small waiting area here that that people can wait in, and we will provide teas and coffees if somebody is sort of unable to sort of get out at all, but it's not ideal in the fact that it's very limited. We've got very limited seating, and as I say, it's a long, long time. But we are looking at ways of sort of helping people that live relatively close, maybe offering taxis to some people. But again, Sean's team will make that assessment on the day when you're doing your sort of pre-screening. So some people we can actually offer a taxi service in and out again afterwards. But as I say, that would be Sean's team that would make that decision at assessment.
Thanks. Thank you. So we've been asked, do I get any results at the end of my visit? Can I see my images? Nicola, would you like to take that?
Sure, happy to, Steve. So as you'll probably recall from when you first agreed to take part in Biobank, the consent you gave was that you wouldn't receive any feedback, and so we only provide limited measurements as a consequence of your visit. So you will receive a few measurements from the assessment on the day, but not actually any detail of your scan results. As I mentioned when I was talking to you before, we are collecting the data for research purposes, and so we're not actually looking for to diagnose disease in any way. It is purely the fact that there is a potential that we could spot something unusual as a consequence of this process that we're following, that there is this other process of reporting of potentially serious incidental findings. So to answer the question, no, it will be the same few summary measurements that you were provided after your first baseline assessment, which was probably your height, your weight, your blood pressure, those sort of routine measurements, not the scan results, unfortunately. I would add, though, if we do spot something that does need further investigation, we can share your scans with hospitals if your GP decides that there is further investigation warranted, then and you were referred to a hospital for that, we can certainly share the scans directly with the hospital team so that they can review. But our recommendation would be that you undergo further scans, because as I keep saying, these are not clinical scans, these are research purpose scans. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thank you. Sean, I think I might come back to you. So a participant said, do I need to come to Bristol? Can I attend one of the other sites?
Yes, you can attend one of the other sites, but just to make you aware that because these sites are very costly to set up, and in terms of the funding that's required, we were only able to set up 4 imaging centres around the country, which is far less than we were able to set up in terms of when you came for that original assessment. I think we went to sort of 19, 20 places around the country at that time, but we were only able to set up 4 imaging centres. So in terms of the south of the country, we've got Bristol and Reading, and then up further north, we've got Stockport, and further north still, we've got Newcastle. So if you do live in a sort of zone that's a bit equidistant in terms of Bristol and Reading, then you may want to attend Reading. And we do have some participants probably more towards the Midlands area who can sometimes say they prefer, or it's easier for them to attend the centre in Stockport. So yeah, there are limitations there in terms of the amount of centres we've been able to set up. So we have worked it out to invite you to a centre that we think is closest to you. But if you do want to attend one of the other centres, then we can arrange for that when you do call us. We can change the invite on the call to book you in at another centre.
Sure, and I think this is possibly related, but Nicola, you did touch on this, but can I claim overnight stay expenses as part of my visit?
So yeah, it's a great question, because as I referenced, some people might need to travel some distance, because as we've talked about, there are just 4 centres across the UK. We'd really encourage you to have a conversation with the contact centre team that Sean heads up around your circumstances. You know, we are a publicly funded charity, so we you know, our resources are limited, but we do actually want to make sure as many people who are able and willing want to take part in this study are able to do so. And so you know, if there are special circumstances that we need to understand, then we would certainly have that conversation with you. Routinely, we're not able to offer overnight hotel accommodation, but if you're traveling a great distance, and my geography of Bristol, and I'm in Manchester, so that might be quite a big distance, you know, please have that conversation with us. You know, we are incredibly grateful for the support you've given to us over the length of the study so far, and we want to make it as possible as we can for people, and that's really the purpose of being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we've had a question about whether any of the studies have been used in today's medicine. I'll take that one. I'm not aware of anything that is directly available now as a result of our study. That said, there are quite a few new potential diagnoses and potential techniques that are being developed as a result of our data. There was a paper published in January looking at a potential blood test that could be used to assess the risk of dementia in later life, and that's using our new proteomics data that John mentioned before. So we are still very, very early in this study. I think a lot of the great discoveries are yet to come. But the more data that we have, both in terms of number of participants, but also in that depth of data, having all of the genomics and the proteomics and the images and the lifestyle data and the linkages that John spoke about will really help drive those discoveries. So I think we are pretty much out of time today. As I mentioned earlier, if there are any other questions that you might have that we've not had time to discuss today, then please do get in touch. There is a button on your screen that says get in touch. If you'd like to make an appointment today, then you can go on our website and request a call back. You should receive a link to ask us to do that. I think it's also being posted in the chat. But regardless, somebody from Sean's team will call in order to try and make that appointment. And I really hope that today has persuaded you that it's worthwhile to take part. So thank you again, and thanks to all of our speakers, and especially to Professor Tobias for taking the time today. Thank you.